Okay, a while back I started doing some of the verses when it comes to the professional wrestlers, taking old school and newer school. And for the debut of Curtis Axel, him being essentially the newer Mr. Perfect, my first thought was, man, I wonder how a feud with Mr. Perfect versus Dolph Ziggler would have been. I do this one differently. It's like my other versus ones where it comes down to, if it's like 6-5, the person with 6 more than likely will beat the person with 5. You know, if it's 7-4, as the numbers get farther apart, there's a greater chance that the person with the higher number, of course, is going to win. I do this from a different standpoint. I have strength, speed, endurance, toughness, striking, grappling, submissions, high flying, and then I go into a slightly different scenario where it's how over are they with the crowd? What was their overall ring psychology? How was their mic work? So we'll get right into this. Mr. Perfect and Dolph Ziggler. Strength. You know, Dolph Ziggler has got a tremendous physique to him, but he doesn't do that much in the way of actual, more power wrestling. If you look at Mr. Perfect was a fairly decent-sized guy and had a lot more strength to him. So I'm going to give the strength edge to Mr. Perfect. Speed edge. This one entirely goes to Ziggler. Ziggler is a very fast guy. We never really saw Mr. Perfect have high-speed matches, more like we see nowadays with the lighter guys, but I will have to give a speed edge to Dolph Ziggler. Endurance. You know, the style of wrestling now is different. So when it comes to someone like Ziggler, he has had matches that are a lot more physical and have gone a lot longer. So I'm actually going to give the endurance edge to Ziggler. When it comes to just standard, good old-fashioned toughness, Perfect could take a beating in the ring. Perfect and people from that era took a tremendous physical toll, and they were still solid in the ring. So from a toughness standpoint, it's got to go to Mr. Perfect. Striking. Who was better when it came to the overall physical ability, when it came to the fisticuffs and things of that nature? You know, this one, I was really torn because they're both really good when it comes to the overall, the brawling style. However, Perfect did a lot more brawling. So I'm going to give the striking edge to Perfect. Grappling. This is your suplexes, your slams. This is whatever comes from the clinch style. And with that one, Perfect's got the perfect plex, which the fisherman suplex, that was his finisher and very, very hard to kick out of. So I have to give him the edge in grappling. Submissions. I really don't recall Perfect using a lot of sleeper holds or moves of that nature. For most of Ziggler's career, the sleeper hold was his finisher. And he's had some really solid matches with people like Daniel Bryan. He's had a pretty good match with CM Punk, too, so he's taken on people who have more of a submissions background. And he's pretty decent at it. High flying. And this one, it almost comes down to Ziggler has got more of a speed advantage and has a tremendous drop kick. And is not afraid to come off the top and to do more of the high-risk offense. Perfect didn't do as much when it comes to the high-risk offense. Okay, now we're at a different scenario where it's how over are they with the crowd. At this point in time, Ziggler's pretty over. Perfect always had help when it came to Heenan, but Perfect by himself never really seemed to get that over with the crowd. He had some phenomenal promos. And the crowd, when he came back for his moment at that Royal Rumble, where he was one of the surprise entrants, lasted like the number 3, had he not had any injuries and anything like that, he probably would have been a world champ. And he got a huge pop then. But at the height of his career, Ziggler currently is more over than Perfect was. Now we're down to the last two things, ring psychology and mic work. Now, as of right now, Ziggler is up. It's 5-4. Came to overall ring psychology. Ziggler is good. He's good at the current era. Perfect was a great ring psychologist in an era of lots of really good ring psychologists. So I'm going to give him the ring psychology edge. Ziggler is good at the current standpoint, but a lot of ring psychology is entirely gone in wrestling. Perfect was great at a time when you had a tremendous number of people who had just fantastic ring psychology backgrounds. So as of right now, we are tied up. It's going to come down to who was better on the microphone. This is going to be mic work as well as the overall promos, vignettes, things of that nature. Ziggler does a good job when he cuts the promo about how he's really great. And he does a good job with that. However, the vignettes that Mr. Perfect used to do, whether it was like the behind-the-back three-point shot, or whether it was tossing the football and catching it himself, he just seemed to have... When he was on the mic, he was gold. When he was doing a vignette, he was gold. If there was a way he could be beyond gold, he would have been it. If he could have been platinum, he would be platinum. Perfect just had phenomenal vignettes. Great on the mic. He knew how to get himself over easily. Yeah, he had help from Heenan a lot, but a lot of what he did by himself was, dare I say, perfect. So if Dolph Ziggler were to take on Mr. Perfect, both in their primes, so Ziggler in his current time, minus the concussion from Swagger, versus Perfect in his prime, these two are going to put on a tremendous match. But I think at the end of the day, Perfect just comes from a different generation, and he was one of the better wrestlers at that time. During a time when there were a tremendous amount of highly skilled wrestlers. And the amount of experience he has, the amount of technique that he has, and the lineage that he has is going to be what's going to put him over the top in a match against Dolph Ziggler.